I finally bought my dream home and invited my family to the housewarming. Not one showed up. They all chose to see my sister's new car instead. Then, just as I switched on the lights, my dad called. "We need to talk." Now, imagine pouring your soul, your savings, years of your life into building a dream, only to have your own family, the people who are supposed to have your back, try to claim it as their own. My new house wasn't just a home. It became the ultimate battleground against the people I loved, a fight I never expected to wage. So, my name's Aaron, I'm 29. And yeah, I'm that guy, the oldest, the planner, the one who always has spare batteries. And, let's be real, an emergency fund for everyone else. I'm a project coordinator in construction, which means my life is all about permits, schedules, budgets. I thrive on clean lists, perfectly labeled boxes, doors that actually close the first time you push them. My family. They'd tell you I'm steady, practical. But if you ask me, I'm basically the background system, the quiet engine that makes all their beautiful, chaotic noise even possible. Then there's my sister, Tessa. She's 26, and honestly, she's golden. Always has been. Spontaneous, fun, vision-led, which basically means our parents clap whenever she breathes, let alone wants something. When I got my license, I hustled for my own beat-up Civic, learned to change the oil myself, right there in the driveway. When Tessa got hers, Dad said, "A young woman needs something safe," and then just handed her the keys to a brand new hatchback, complete with a dealership bow. I learned pretty early on not to expect any applause for just doing what I was supposed to do. You just keep your head down, do the right thing, and keep moving forward. So, buying a house for me, that wasn't about applause. It was about solid doors that shut and stayed shut. It was about not having to hear my dad's TV blaring through paper-thin walls, or sharing a fridge packed with my sister's meal prep jars that somehow always ended up empty. I grinded for 4 years straight. Overtime shifts, 0 vacations, enduring roommates who left crusty dishes everywhere, all fueled by a spreadsheet I lovingly named Brick by Brick. I said no to so many little things, so many small pleasures, just so I could finally say yes to that one massive dream. And last month, that yes finally happened. It was a small craftsman, with this gorgeous lemon tree in the yard and a porch swing the previous owners left behind, on the condition I'd actually sit on it. 2 bedrooms, a charmingly squeaky hallway, and this tiny old fireplace with a tile someone had painted, a crooked little blue fish. The moment I ran my hand along that kitchen counter, it just clicked. I felt like I'd finally found a place that actually fit me. I remember sending a photo to the family group chat. Keys in my hand, that sold sign beaming behind me. My caption was simple: housewarming next Saturday at 5. Chili, cornbread, fire pit if the wind cooperates. What did I get back? 3 confetti emojis, a proud of you, son that felt utterly copy-pasted, and from Tessa, just a champagne bottle sticker with a single yes. That was it. All week, I poured my heart into it, scrubbing cabinet fronts until they gleamed, lining drawers, rolling leftover paint over every single scuff. I went out and bought folding chairs, exactly 8 matching bowls, because details matter. I even found a secondhand rug and wrestled at home, strapped so badly to the Civic that the corners flapped like crazy flags in my side mirror. Saturday arrived. I strung up lights in the backyard, lit 3 citronella candles that honestly smelled more like lemon cleaner. The chili was simmering. The cornbread went into the oven at 420. I stocked a cooler on the deck. Ice, 3 kinds of soda, 2 beers, and a root beer, because Dad always likes to pretend he's a kid when he's happy. Napkins, cheap plastic spoons, everything was perfect. At 5:02, I checked the road. Dead quiet. 5:11, I lit the candles anyway. 5:18, I texted, ETA. Mom replied, soon red heart. Dad, nothing. Then Tessa's message popped up. A photo of her, sunglasses on, grinning in front of something glossy red at a car lot. Caption, we did a thing. My stomach dropped. At 5:33, my phone buzzed again, a video from Mom. Look at our girl, she gushed from behind the camera. Tessa revved the engine. Someone laughed, a salesman clapped. The video ended. I just stared at the screen, a cold knot forming in my gut. The chili made a big, glossy bubble and popped. I slowly turned off the burner. At 5:41, I flipped on my new living room lights for the very first time. I expected that home feeling to just wash over me. Instead, the room just looked like a photo stage for a listing. Clean, ready, empty. My phone rang. Dad. I let it ring for just a beat longer than I would have even a year ago. Then I answered. We need to talk, he said. No hello. No congratulations. Just that. Okay. I replied, my voice flat. I looked out at my porch, at the little welcome sign I'd put up. It felt like a cruel joke. Now, he insisted. I stood there, bathed in the new light of my own house, phone pressed to my ear, listening to that familiar tone Dad uses right before he's about to assign me a task, a responsibility, his plan. I didn't know what they wanted yet, but I knew they were all at a dealership, laughing, celebrating, while I was here in my quiet kitchen, the chili slowly cooling. I leaned against the counter, a hollow ache in my chest, and said, I'm home. I didn't add, finally. I didn't have to. The porch swing creaked softly in the wind. That welcome sign just looked silly, like a setup with no punchline. I hung up, and I deliberately set my phone face down on the counter. Somewhere out there, across the city, my sister was probably circling a parking lot in her shiny new car, and everyone was still clapping for her. I just stood there in my house, listening to the refrigerator cycle on. That first trigger, that first moment of realization, it wasn't loud or dramatic. It was the quiet click of lights turning on in an empty room for an audience that had chosen to go to a different show entirely. I plated myself a bowl of chili and ate it, standing right there over the sink. It was good chili, actually. The room was quiet. The lights stayed on. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I just chewed. And as I ate, I looked at the doorway, feeling the slight draft where the new weather stripping hadn't arrived yet. Then, with deliberate movements, I washed the bowl, dried it, and set it face down on a towel. It felt like I was getting ready for something big, something I couldn't quite name yet. In my family, money always wore a costume, you know? It pretended to be love, or duty, or discipline, whatever suited the moment. When I was just 14, Dad called it responsibility. He charged me $100 a month for room and board, right out of my grocery store paycheck. Teaches you the real world, he'd say, taking the cash from my palm like I was paying a fine. When I was 16, I dared to ask Mom where that money went. Into the family, she said, vague as ever. And when I asked to see the family, Dad just laughed. By then, I'd already started keeping records. A running note on my phone with dates and amounts. I told myself it wasn't petty. It was my map through a fog, a way to prove that the road I saw was real, even if everyone else pretended it was just my imagination. Meanwhile, Tessa, she had this uncanny talent for arriving after the check, always. She was always so good at I want. The words people used around her, they were always softened, you know? Dreams, vision, potential. She tried a semester of community college, then dropped out because the professor was negative. She launched a candle business she conveniently never paid sales tax on. Then she decided she was going to be a content creator, so she needed a better phone, a ring light, a creative space, and, of course, a car to land those brand deals. Guess who ended up doing the math for that creative space? Guess who lugged a couch out of the garage for her? And guess who drove her to a collab that turned out to be some stranger's apartment with a really weird smell? But if I ever pushed back, even a little, said no to a temporary add-on to my phone plan, or refused to just co-sign the lease for 6 months, the narrative shifted instantly. I became cold, transactional, stingy. Mom would lament, Aaron, don't be a ledger with your family. Dad would boom, a man provides. And a man provides for his family has covered everything. From Tessa's $312 credit card emergency, to Dad's truck tires because he didn't realize payday moved for $198, to the HOA fee they let go to collections because the HOA is a scam, which somehow turned into $280 plus late fees, plus a lawyer's letter. Oh, and the little things too. Disney Plus, because we all watch. Fancy coffee pods, because we like the nice ones. A replacement vacuum, because ours died and we can't vacuum without one. It was always we when it was an ask, and never thank you when it was received. If I dared to say no, Mom's voice would get this glassy, wounded quality. We did everything for you, Aaron, she'd whisper. We housed you, we fed you. Dad would just fold his arms, stare out the window, and in tone, we're not asking for the moon, son. Just family. That word, family, always used as a weapon. Look, I'm no saint, okay? I'm just a guy who likes to know where his money goes and what the plan is. I helped out where I could, mostly because it was just easier than fighting. And sometimes, help feels like loyalty, even when deep down, it isn't. But this house changed the math entirely. It meant I was done renting out 2 whole rooms of my life to roommates, to overnight guests, metaphorical and literal. This house meant I could finally have a door with my name on it, a deed where nobody else's initials could just magically appear. It meant no one could use "we" to secretly mean you and expect me to just smile and nod anymore. Even when I told my parents I was just looking at houses, the demands started. Mom said, "Make sure it has a guest room so Tessa has a place to stay while she figures out her next move." Dad chimed in, "And a garage, so I can finally store my table saw." Tessa, of course, chirped, "Your house is going to be amazing. Oh, and can I record in your kitchen? The light is perfect." So, when my offer actually got accepted, I brought over a bottle of cheap sparkling cider, some paper cups, and proudly announced, "I did it." Mom hugged me, but almost immediately her words were, "Oh, we should get Tessa on your address for lower insurance. Just for now." Dad just smiled, that knowing smile, and declared, "A property is a family asset." And Tessa? She snapped a photo of herself in my car mirror, posting, "Big change is coming sparkles," like my entire new home was just a backdrop for her ongoing show. I paid the down payment. I paid the closing costs. I even paid to replace a section of pipe the inspector diplomatically called optimistic. I signed my name 15 times, then once more for good measure. That pen felt heavy in my hand, but delicious. When the title officer finally pushed the folder across the desk and called me homeowner, I felt a knot loosen in my throat. A knot I realized I'd been carrying, tight and heavy, ever since I was 14 and handed that first bill for just being a kid. That week, Mom texted, "We'll come Saturday to help you settle in and bless the space." She even sent a list of things they could bring: a plant, a rug, that painting your father loves. Tessa, naturally, chimed in, "I'll do a house tour for my followers." I simply replied, "Housewarming at 5. It only occurred to me later to ask, "Are you coming to eat or to claim?" Saturday gave me my answer, clear as day. No one came. They were all at that dealership, watching Tessa drive in a circle. My dad was probably on speaker with the salesman, bullying the APR. My mom was undoubtedly filming the reveal, eyebrows arched, like the surprise was actually happening to her. Everyone was clapping for a car that was literally depreciating as it rolled off the lot. No one, not a single one of them, even glanced at the door I had paid for with my own sweat and tears just to open. When Dad called and said, "We need to talk," I knew, deep down, from the cold, calculating tone in his voice, that this wasn't about congratulations. It was about logistics. It was about my house, in the same way a hawk thinks about a field, as something to be claimed, utilized. And here's the thing. That cooling chili in my sink didn't make me angry by itself. It was just the latest, crystal clear line in a pattern. A pattern that shifted its appearance in every scene, but always drew the exact same shape. A favor with a deadline and my name on it. A plan where I was always the default safety net. A family where love somehow always ended up sounding like, "Just sign here." I didn't answer Dad's curt "now." I texted back, "Tomorrow afternoon." His reply? "Don't be dramatic. If you're the oldest in a family like mine, dramatic just means you didn't say yes fast enough." That night, the lemon tree outside clicked softly in the wind, dropping a single fruit onto the lawn. I sat on my new porch swing, watching a moth dance around the light. My phone felt like a brick on the table, heavy with unspoken expectations. I didn't touch it. I watched the sky fade from purple to an unremarkable gray. And then I started making a list for tomorrow. Half of it was chores. The other half, pure spine. The next morning, I found myself wiping down the counters again, almost compulsively. It's what I do when I'm steeling myself for one of those conversations, the ones where someone's about to hand me a folder and pretend it's love. They arrived in a convoy, 10 minutes early, like it was a raid. Dad's big truck pulled up first, Mom's SUV right behind it, and then Tessa, in her shiny red car, temporary tag stuck crooked in the window. I watched through the peephole. Tessa was checking her hair in the visor mirror. Mom had her lips pressed together, ready to discipline a classroom. And Dad? Of course, Dad had a clipboard. Always a clipboard. I opened the door before they even had a chance to ring. "Hey," I said, my voice carefully neutral. Mom leaned in for an air kiss near my cheek. "We'll bless the house after," she declared. After what? I thought, but didn't say. Dad brushed past me, straight into the living room, like he already owned the place. Tessa immediately started filming a quick pan for her story. "You guys, look," she chirped into her phone. "My brother's house." They didn't take off their shoes. They didn't say wow at the crooked tile fish. They didn't even ask about the lemon tree. Dad just set that damn clipboard on my counter. "Let's get down to it," he said, all business. "To what?" I asked, even though I already knew. He flipped a page. Printouts, headings, bullet points. He was practically vibrating with excitement. "Okay," he began. "First, since your sister's insurance is predatory, we're moving her registration to your address. She'll park here sometimes." "No," I said. No." He blinked, actually blinked. "Excuse me?" "No." I repeated, my voice steady. "No registration at my address unless the person actually lives here." Mom immediately switched to her soft, helpful voice. "Oh, she'll be here all the time, Aaron," she cooed. "She needs a stable base." Tessa, leaning against my counter, phone still in hand, added, "It's not a big deal. Everyone does it. It's literally a victimless crime." "It's not about crime," I cut her off. "It's about my name." Dad sighed, a long-suffering sound, like he was dealing with a particularly stubborn child. "You're being rigid," he accused. "Next item, we need to get your dad on the deed." "You are my dad," I pointed out, a flicker of something sharp in my voice. He ignored me. "For estate reasons," he droned on. "So things are clean if anything happens to you." "If anything happens to me," I said, "my will is in my desk drawer." "It is. I wrote one last month. Mike from work and his girlfriend signed as witnesses. No one goes on my deed." Mom's smile thinned, completely vanished. "We're protecting you, Aaron," she insisted. "You don't understand how the world works." "I read things," I shot back. "I understand perfectly." Tessa looked genuinely offended, like I'd just refused to try her new lip gloss. "So selfish," she muttered under her breath. "We're literally family." Dad flipped another page. "Fine. Then you can at least pull some cash out," he said, moving on without missing a beat. "Refinance and take a small equity line, say, 80,000. We'll help you manage it. Tessa needs a down payment for a storefront." There it was. The real reason. "There it is," I said, the words heavy. "What?" Mom asked, feigning surprise. "The reason you skipped my housewarming," I clarified. "You weren't celebrating. You were plotting what you were going to do with my house." Tessa threw her hands up dramatically. "We were celebrating my car," she shrieked. "It's a big step. You're being petty." Dad tapped his clipboard, an impatient rhythm. "This is the step," he corrected her. "We need to be strategic. Your money sitting in these walls is lazy. Unlock it. Tessa's boutique will pay it back." "Tessa's boutique?" I scoffed. "The candles, the pop-ups you cancel when you're tired, the brand you've renamed 3 times?" She puffed up, furious. "You're being negative. This is why you don't get invited to things." "I invited you to my house," I reminded her, my voice steel. "You went to a dealership." Mom, ever the master manipulator, cut in with that sickeningly sweet voice she uses when she's about to frame exploitation as compassion. "Aaron," she began, "listen to me. We raised you. We housed you. We fed you. Family reallocates resources to the child in the season of need. You're steady. Your sister is launching for 6 months, maybe a year. You carry more. Then she carries you when you settle down." "Settle down," I repeated, a bitter laugh escaping me. "Mom, I just settled. Right here. In this house." Dad leaned forward, elbows on my counter, invading my space. "Be a man," he said, his voice low, menacing. "Step up. You taught me to be a man by charging me rent at 14. I retorted, my own voice rising. "I did step up. I saved. I worked. I did this on my own. This house is not a group project." The air in the room shifted, thick with tension. This was that moment in our family, the one where you're supposed to back down, because Dad's about to raise his voice, or Mom's about to cry. Tessa, she can sniff out that moment and wrap it around herself like a protective scarf. She pointed a perfectly manicured finger at me. You don't even use both bedrooms, she accused. I could move in. I could help with content. I could pay you a little. How much? I challenged, cutting her off. She blinked. Why does it matter? Money is energy. It flows. Dad slapped the clipboard with his palm, a sharp, final sound. Enough. Here's what's going to happen. I'll call my guy. We'll get your deed set, so you're protected. We'll refinance to free up a cushion. We'll register the car to your address for the discount. And you'll host Thanksgiving this year, because you have the space. No, I said. My voice was level, calm, cutting through all of it. No, Mom's eyes filled, a practiced well of tears, but I saw the genuine hurt behind them this time too. Why are you punishing us? She whispered, her voice breaking. This isn't about revenge, I said, and felt this incredible calm drop into place inside me, solid as a seatbelt clicking. This is about closure. Dad scoffed. From what? From your family, I clarified. From a role I didn't sign up for. From always being the Aaron will figure it out guy. From being the budget line for every single one of your plans. Tessa's voice went sharp, venomous. You're lucky. You got a house. Some of us actually need help. I needed help too. I fired back, my voice shaking with raw emotion. I just gave it to myself. Dad pointed at me like a furious coach. Listen, he said, low and dangerous now. You don't slam doors on blood. I'm not slamming anything. I countered, my resolve hardening. I'm locking what I paid for. He straightened up, angry in that quiet, chilling way that means he's already rewriting me, erasing me, in his head. If you do this, he warned, don't come crying when you're alone. Mom added, her voice chillingly sweet, and don't expect us to show up when you finally need something. I just stared at a lemon sitting on my counter. I wanted to be petty, to hand it to them as some kind of symbolic offering, but I didn't. Tessa made a show of checking her watch. I have content to shoot, she huffed. Are we done here? We're done, I said, my voice firm. House rules. No registering anything here unless you live here. No keys given out. No one on my deed. No loans. If Grandma needs medicine, I'll help her directly. Otherwise, my house is not the family ATM or storage unit. If you want the table saw here, you bring cash for a storage shed, and we'll sign a receipt. Dad laughed then, a harsh, humorless sound. A receipt, he sneered, like it was the dirtiest word he'd ever heard. Yep, I said. A receipt. Mom's face was a mask of disbelief. You've changed. I've moved, I corrected her. They left. Not with a bang, but with that quiet, heavy click of a door that says more than any shouted words ever could. Tessa revved her new car like she could drown out the very existence of my porch light. I watched her red taillights disappear down the street, fading into the distance. I could feel my heartbeat hammering in my teeth. Then, I walked back inside my quiet house, found an index card, and wrote down those rules. All of them. I stuck it to the inside of the pantry door. Not for them. For me. You know, people always think that big, dramatic confrontation is the hard part. But it's not. The hard part is the next 2 weeks, when your phone turns into a relentless fire alarm, and you have to consciously decide not to run into the smoke, just because you're so used to it. Within an hour, the family group chat went absolutely electric. Mom, your behavior today was unacceptable. Dad, ungrateful. Tessa, a screenshot of a DMV page, address change needed, with the caption, my brother is literally sabotaging me. 3 of her friends hearted it. Someone I didn't even know DM'd me a snake emoji. I muted the chat. I turned my ringer off. I set Grandma and Mike from work as favorites, the only ones who could still get through. Then, quietly, without needing to make a speech to anyone, I just did the boring, necessary work. I changed the smart lock code, erasing all the temporary ones I'd set for move-in day. I installed a mailbox with a lock, so no one could helpfully gather my mail and accidentally stumble upon my bank statements. I emailed my insurance agent, telling her explicitly not to accept any policy changes without my written signature and a password we'd set. I froze my credit, because I know exactly my father's definition of an emergency. I put a freeze on my property records with the county, so I'd get an alert anytime anyone tried to file anything with my parcel number. I even called the dealership Tessa had posted from. The kid on the phone was like, yeah, someone did mention a family property for insurance, but we hadn't put it through yet. I said don't, and I followed up with an email, just so there was a record. All those sent mails, saved in a folder I called House Paper Trail, because if you grew up in my house, you know, paper trails are how you keep reality real. Mom quickly escalated. My phone logged 6 missed calls, then 9, then 14. The voicemails were a roller coaster, from scolding to tenderness, to outright threats, then back to tenderness again. We can fix this, she'd plead. Then, if you love me, call me. Then, ominously, we'll be at your house at 7 o'clock. And finally, a heavy sigh. I don't even know who you are anymore. Dad, ever the pragmatist, sent 2 texts that were just links. One to a refinance calculator, another to a storage shed at a big box store. His caption, be reasonable. I didn't respond. Tessa, of course, took to her public story to aim her passive-aggressive shots. Sometimes the people closest to you laugh when you drive. She wrote over a photo of her new car. Drive anyway. Her commenters flooded it with haters gonna hate. I closed the app. I walked outside, picked 2 lemons from my tree, and gave one to my neighbor across the street, the one who had actually waved on moving day and genuinely said, welcome. She told me she liked them in her tea. We talked about absolutely nothing for 4 glorious minutes. It felt like finally taking a deep, clean breath in a place where there was actual oxygen. On day 3, Mom tried a new angle. We have a plan, she texted. We'll help with your mortgage if you sign a family agreement that keeps the house in us. She even put in us in quotes, like she knew it sounded weird but hoped I wouldn't notice. I typed back one single sentence. No one goes on my deed. She didn't reply for 6 hours. Then, she hit me with the classic, you'll be alone at holidays. Maybe, I typed back, but I'll have a chair to sit in. Later, Aunt Mara called, leaving a voicemail with a mournful hymn humming in the background, then declared, blood is thicker than pride. I actually Googled the full quote later, and honest to God, I laughed out loud in my kitchen, because the original quote means the exact opposite. I didn't call her back. Dad actually showed up once, early Saturday, before I'd even had my coffee. I watched him through the peephole, literally debating whether to ring the bell. He'd raise his fist, then lower it. Finally, he texted, come out. I texted back, coolly, no surprise visits. Make an appointment. He just stood on my porch, took a picture of my house, like the mere image of it could somehow intimidate me. Then he walked back to his truck and drove away. I jotted the date and time on a Post-it and stuck it in my paper trail folder. Another data point. That afternoon, Tessa fed Mom another line, and Mom, predictably, fed it right to me. Tessa needs a temporary mailing address, just for the DMV. It's just mail. I sent back a link to the state law, specifically highlighting the part about primary residence. My reply, no. Tessa responded with 12 eye roll emojis, and, you're literally obsessed with rules. My final word, they're how houses stay yours. Later that night, Grandma called, right after her favorite soap opera. They're mad, she said, matter-of-factly. Are you eating? I am, I told her. I made chili. Put some in the freezer, she advised. Don't let your mother guilt you into feeding them with your walls. I won't, I promised. We talked about her pills. I offered to set them up for auto-ship directly to her door every month. You're a good boy, she said, her voice gruff. Don't be a fool. That's her version of I love you. And also, keep those doors locked. I wrote down what she needed and set it up online right away. Then I called her back with the order number. She wrote it on a sticky note and stuck it on her fridge. We're the same, Grandma and I. We like numbers that prove things happened. By day 5, the texts went quiet. And honestly, that scared me more than all the noise. Quiet in my family usually just means they're reloading. Right at noon, an email from my title company pinged. Subject, FYI received inquiry re-adding party to deed. No action taken. Attached was a blurry scan of a request form. My parcel number was there, and under new owner, plain as day, was father. No signature, no legal anything, just pure, unadulterated audacity, printed on office paper. The assistant wrote, we rejected it, as we should. We wanted you to know. I immediately replied with 10 thank yous and asked them to please note the file for any future funny business. I printed that email, tucked it into my folder. I stood over the sink, eating a sandwich, just shaking my head until the hot, sharp anger wore down to a smooth, cold rock inside me. That night, the group chat actually renamed itself family emergency. Mom wrote, "We're having a meeting on Sunday. Non-negotiable." I typed, "I won't be there," and muted it again. Dad chimed in, "You will. We're your parents. It's time for you to grow up." I just set my phone down, and I went and hung a shelf in the hallway. I used a stud finder. I used a level. I felt the house itself take a quiet breath as the screws bit deep into the wood. I put a small, empty bowl on that shelf. A bowl for keys that are mine. And only mine. On Sunday at 5 p.m., while they were undoubtedly meeting without me, plotting, I grilled 2 burgers on my little grill. I delivered one to my neighbor, who later texted me, "You're a good neighbor." That simple text meant more than you can imagine. I watched my string lights flicker on. The lemon tree clicked softly in the breeze. I ate the second burger, sitting in a chair I'd bought with my own money. And as I ate, I thought about Dad's words, family asset. I wondered how many years I'd completely confused family with shared, unquestioning access to Aaron. The very next morning, Mom tried one last-ditch, desperate ceremony. "We took your keys," she texted. "We're blessing your house with oil." My blood ran cold for a second, then I remembered. They didn't have keys. I'd changed the locks. I calmly texted her back, "You don't have keys." I changed the locks. She sent a photo of a small jar of oil, sitting on their old kitchen table. "We're praying for you," she wrote. "Thanks," I typed back, unwavering. "Keep your hands off my deed." She didn't respond. A week after the housewarming that never happened, I hosted one anyway. I invited 5 people from work, 2 guys from my pickup basketball game, and my neighbor across the street. I made the same chili, set out the same plastic spoons. We sat on that squeaky porch swing, telling dumb stories about job site mishaps and first apartments with mice. At 7:40, my phone buzzed, face down on the counter. I didn't even flinch. Didn't turn it over. At 9:10, someone looked around, smiled, and said, "This place, Aaron, it really feels like you." I went to bed at 11 o'clock, dishes still in the sink, my phone firmly on Do Not Disturb. I woke up at 6:30 a.m., sunlight streaming through the lemon leaves, and felt this profound quiet. A quiet that wasn't empty anymore. And now, every day, that locked mailbox gets me a little postcard. A postcard just for myself, whispering, "This is yours. This is yours. This is yours." This is a tough one, right? Boundaries with family are messy, especially when love gets twisted into obligation. So, I'm curious, if you were in my shoes, what would you have done differently? Or, have you ever had to draw a line in the sand with your own family? Let me know in the comments below. I'd really appreciate hearing your thoughts.